Welcome back to Stellar Horizons Campaign Game Playthrough, episode 19. We are in the year 2090. We just completed the economics phase, so we will be beginning with the build phase. Let's see here, a couple of starting notes. During the campaign phase, during the base production, I accidentally gave the Asians 5 ore at their Mars base. That's actually was intended to be supply. And then when they did their transfers, that would have ended up being incorrect. So I have reset them to be correct now. Was there anything else? Yes, at the end of the video, I was kind of puzzling a little bit about the severe atmosphere symbols that are at all of the gas giants. And what does that mean? I think it's just like Venus, or that's how I'm going to treat it. I think the confusion comes in, we can have orbiters at Jupiter, but the crewed vehicles can't go there. And I think that was just a conceptual problem for my part. Theoretically, I guess, crewed vehicles could be in orbit around Jupiter, but within the game mechanics, they can't come here until you have this pressure hull tech, because there's nothing for them to do. So we can't build bases at Jupiter proper. Crewed vehicles can't come here until we get that pressure shell tech. And at that point, crewed vehicles can come, they can build a base, the vehicles can remotely mine, the base can also build a mining facility and scoop hydrogen out of the atmosphere or whatever. So we're all good there. What's everybody doing? Let's just, of course, the complexity of everybody's plans continues. The Asians, they need to get that small supply, wherever it is, small supply station upgraded to a small spaceport. So that's 2 levels. They've got some resources. They've got this out here at Ceres, and they've got 2 more on a vehicle that's at Ceres. So they're going to be doing a little bit of resource consolidation, getting ready. That's a 5 fuel there. So it's actually ore that they're a little short on, and the supplies are not as immediately necessary. At their plan for their Mars base, they're up to 10 settlements now. It's going to grow 1 per decade by itself now, guaranteed. I am considering building a small refinery, which costs 6 resources and improves the resource production by 2. I think initially I was a little dismissive of the refineries as being economically. You spend 6 resources to improve 2 production, from the large mining station, and so it takes 3 decades for that to pay off. Again, you see a 2 bump. The other thing that is that these are worth a victory point anyway, so I think they might be worth it. What are the Russians doing or planning? The Russians, they've also got supplies, but they've got crewed vehicles ready to bring them from Ceres back to the main base here in the asteroid belt. They'd actually like to bump both of these, the Mir and the asteroid belt settlement, up to 3, because that will give them 4 trade resources. The one at the asteroid belt is ore, and the one here at Earth is fuel, which is actually quite useful. Of course, they've got this pirate to deal with. They can do things within the Earth system, but once they try to leave, they're going to have to deal with a pirate. In their current condition, a reserved CV with no cargo, pirates, you can surrender to the pirate if it is able to intercept you, and there's no additional negative impact from that. But if they were to buy, the fuel and try to ship it out, or here, or come over here to the moon and try to mine more fuel, all those options, and then take it to somewhere more useful, there you run the risk of dealing with a pirate. So they are considering a crewed vehicle 5, which is going to require this base to build the large spaceport, and that's going to take more fuel. So they've got a fuel shortage, and the easiest access for fuel for them is actually back here at Earth, which puts them a bit behind a barrier, or potentially. There's not really a good place to mine fuel even out here. And again, we just talked about Jupiter is going to be great. That's 9. Can't do it yet. Io is a potential place. It has a +3 fuel bonus. If they, those mixed ices would be great here on Io. Of course, these are that's a rocky volcanic, and mixed ice doesn't work there. So I'm not sure what's going to work well at Io to get them a high fuel source. But Europa is available for supply mining. Vesta is a good place to mine ore. So we'll see how the Russians do. The Americans, also thinking about the CV5, they're in a little bit better position because they've got fuel available at both of their bases that they can buy from the civilians, and the one on Mars especially, they can bump this from a 4 to a 5, and that will turn into a 6. So they're going to actually go after that. They're going to take some stuff back to Mars here right away from the asteroid belt and let them build a settlement, and then they'll be able to do that buy action and get 6 fuel to take back to the asteroid belt to help support their operations. So those are some conceptual things. Let's get on into the buy phase in reverse initiative order. Asians go first. Of course, they're going to buy a flyby and a probe, so they need to get on with the exploration, catch up on tech. They're also building an LV-4 and a rover. Rover they're going to send to Titan to work on biology tech, and the flyby is going to go as far as it can. They've got their orbiter at Neptune. They don't have any crewed vehicles that need to be resupplied at bases right now, so they're done. Collect all that money. Russians are next. They're going to build a rover. They're going to send that rover out to Eris on an LV-4. That's going to get them there, I think, about 6 turns. And and then they'll see how other things develop. So that is, and again, the Russians don't have a crewed vehicle on the board that can be resupplied at its location, although they do have a couple of vehicles that are flipped. Americans buying a rover and an LV-4. Americans want to send that rover, help me remember. Oh, they want to send it to Io and see if they can further develop. Apologize if I'm kind of waving this around a little bit much. I'll be more mindful. See if they can't get a better world card and make Io a place that is interesting to mine fuel. The other thing though, let's see here. So at the asteroid belt, they've got a crewed vehicle here. They're actually not going to unreserve it right now. They want to, they're just going to run cargo to Mars and back, and they're going to actually wait because they've got some constraints on their fuel supplies. They're available, but they don't want to use them. The crewed vehicle 2. So this is something we haven't done before. They're actually going to decommission it at the base, which gives them, now it's reserved, which means we subtract 1 from the supply and 1 from the supply and 1 from the fuel. So 3 halved is 1.5. We round up to 2 ore. 3 halved, so the supply thing doesn't hurt them because they're going to still get 2 supplies, so 2 ore, 2 supply, and they are down to 1 halved to half, rounded up. So again, they're getting 2, 2, and 1 for this crewed vehicle. So we're just going to add those resources. And I'll find them. 2, 2, and 1. to the Americans' base here. And they've already got quite a bit of stuff. There's a couple more supplies. This is at Mars, and they're actually going to be loading up. Well, we'll talk about it in the movement phase. And we've taken care of that, so that is all of the building that is going on. Movement, I think there's only one vehicle in a transfer box. It says flyby, and the Americans were waiting to see how does this flyby perform. Afterwards, they're just going to decommission it. One, they'll be able to rebuild it, and two, they'll know if they want to send something more permanent out to Sedna where they have a mission. So, Asian movements are next. So the Asians. This reserved, it's a CV3 with cargo 4. It's going to load up 2 supplies and take it back to the to the asteroid belt base. We'll stick it there and put these at the asteroid belt. Crewed Vehicle 4 that was there is moving out to Vesta. This Crewed Vehicle 4 at their base is going to load up the one remaining supply that was at the base. It's also going to move over here and be in a fleet at Vesta. So they're going to do some remote mining of ore. Of course, the asteroid is a great target, but everybody can see, I think everybody's just making the assumption that the Americans, because they'll have the initiative, they'll be able to get the asteroid. So anybody else who moves there is wasting their time. Other Asian movement, we've moved that stuff. Of course, they've got their launches. So let's take care of the launches. The flyby and the probe are headed to the main asteroid belt, being launched on LV2. A 7%. Well, that's a successful launch, but the LV2 is lost. The flyby and the probe, distance of 3, but with their engine tech and the one size larger LV, it's going to be in the 1 box. Next is their rover on an LV4, and its destination is Titan. 32, the rocket is recovered. And the rover, okay, let's check our math. So for their speed tech, which is 0.7, distance 7, it's 5 years, and then minus 3 for an LV4. 5 minus 3, 2 years out for the rover at Saturn. Okay, that looks like all of the Asians' movement. Next up, the Russians. Well, let's see here, the Russians. Okay, so they have a reserved CV4 with cargo 6. It's going to load up all the supplies that were here at their series base, and it's going to, I'm just going to move those things here because it makes it right away. So it makes it to that base. This CV4 is it remote mining? What are we doing? They have the option. The Asians cannot go to Jupiter. It's only 1 year out to Jupiter and 1 year back. The Russians really, they've got, you know, ore. What they really need is fuel, and there's just, I guess the best places are still going to be Ganymede and Callisto. Let's go ahead and give that a try. So the Russians with their CV4, this one, are going to move out to Jupiter and be in the 1 box. They've got the small supply station, so their range of 2 applies. Okay. Next up, let's see here. Oh, also this reserved CV. So what do they want to do? They could just move to Mars. Of course, there's no fuel on Mars to resupply. They can move out to the asteroid belt. To CV3. They have capacity for 1 more crewed vehicle, so they don't need to necessarily get rid of a ship. Okay, well, I've made a decision here. The Russians are just going to put this stuff on hold for right now, and they're just going to leave Earth and head back to Mars. So they move, and when they leave the flyby box, the pirates technically intercept them, although it's not going to, I don't think there's going to be any impact, but we'll make sure. So we roll interception rolls. There's modifiers and things like that based off of different conditions, but based off of what we've got right now, each side rolls a die. The red will be for the Russians, the black one for the pirates. If either person rolls below a 4 or less, just checking, yeah, 4 or less, then there's an interception. And so there is an interception. Okay, because there's an interception, they're not going to fight it out. So the Russians will just surrender. Well, the effects of surrendering are destroy all resources carried by the CV, so there are none. You have to reserve the CV. Well, it's already reserved. And they would have to lose a political marker. Well, they're at the beginning of the decade and they don't have to lose a political marker. So that's all that's going to happen. And then they're going to continue on to the asteroid belt, which is 2 years travel time. And you'll notice I put these by trade markers up above the bases just to kind of clear them out and keep them visible. So I think that's all of the Russians' movement except for their launch of their rover from Earth, and the pirates don't mess with robotic explorers. So, LV-4 launch from Earth. 62, the rocket is recovered, and the rover's destination was Eris in the scattered disk. So, scattered disk is 15. So that's 9 years travel time minus 3 for their LV-4 bonus. Any other Russian movement? No. Okay, the Americans. What movement do they have? Well, this crewed vehicle 3, we're going to load this one. This reserved crew vehicle is going to load up stuff, and what it's going to load, and then head to Mars with. Let's see here. I'm going to do this out of order. CV4 is just going over here to the asteroid to mine it. This guy's heading to Mars. At Mars, they need 2 ore and 1 fuel to be able to build a settlement. So those are the 3 resources that that guy is going to carry. And a distance of 2, but with their speed tech, that's 1 year. That crewed vehicle, of course, all this stuff is now at this base. And they're going to have to come out here and get this supply from Ceres. So Ceres is still sitting on stuff, and they'll need to take an ore over there so that the Ceres base can repair its damage. I think, yeah, crewed vehicle 4, crewed, okay, so that's all of the Americans' movement except for the launch of their rover, Destination EO. On an LV-432, the rocket is recovered. And I bet for Jupiter, 5 years, down to 3 for their speed tech. That's overkill. So that rover is going to be 1 year out. So that looks like all of our movement. Exploration, starting with the Americans. They've got this orbiter, so they'll do that. And let's see here. This is, did the Americans get a bonus? No, they're still at a +2 bonus. So it would be 4 plus 5 is 9, 10, 11, and then -1. So I think they're going to go with the sure thing at Europa and get a biology marker, and they'll roll for a malfunction. 41, no malfunction, biology marker draw. It's just a 1. Next, so not the rover, they do have their flyby now, targeting Sedna. So 3 for the flyby plus 2 for tech. So that puts them at a 13. So it's an automatic physics, and if they roll a 3 or less, they did not. 10, so they just get the 1 physics. 88, there's no malfunction. The physics marker is a 1. They need to make an engine roll. Actually would have liked to have failed the malfunction check to get an engineering marker. They rolled a 7% on the engine, which would have also given them an engineering marker, but neither of those things happened. So I guess the next destination is Alpha Centauri. Well, something to think about. There's some victory points for it. But I think they would rather not have that flyby tied up. So they're actually just going to take it off the board so that they can rebuild it, relaunch it, and do the whole trip again. I think it would take, that's a distance of 30, so at their speed tech, that's 18 years. For a flyby, which would have, some number of shots. What else do we need? I'm always talking myself into it. That's the Americans' explorations. Next up, the Russians. What do they have? They've got a CV4, and they don't want to use that. They've got a rover over there, not available, so they don't have any exploration this turn. The Asians, what explorations do they have? Well, they've got a flyby here at the asteroid belt. It's a distance of 1. It's carrying a probe. They're just going to use the flyby, and they will target. It's got a spectrometer as well, so they can get either of these bonuses. They're going to target Hygeia Pallas. So 2 plus 1 is 3, 4, 5, 6 for the bonus, minus 1. Puts them down to a 5 on the red die. That's a success. A 15 is a failure or malfunction. So they're going to get an engineering marker for the exploration and then another one. First is a 2, second is a 5. And that flyby and probe come off the board. They'll just have to build that and try that again. Currently their malfunction rate is 21. Okay. Any other, oh yeah, of course. Neptune, so the orbiter 3, 7 is 10, plus 1 is 11, so an automatic physics success. If they roll a 1, they'll draw 2. I got a 2, 68, no malfunction, physics marker. There's a 3, they've completed a mission. They're already doing way better than they did last decade. So let's get them a political marker. We need a 6. So the 7 goes to a 6. They've got a spectrometer, so we're going to pull 2 world cards. Which are neither one will apply. Impact basin, rocky, mixed ice, icy. So those go away. And there's a life check, 2%. And I said a political marker. They actually get 2 political markers because they just completed the Neptune mission. Right here, worth 4 victory points. Let's change out their 1 with a 2. Okay, we need to do a life check, 2%. $36, no life, and we need to draw a new public mission. Which is Pluto. Let's see, any other explorations? I don't think so. So remote mining, there's probably going to be some of that, although the Americans are not doing it. Oh yes, they are. Asteroid. So we roll 1 red die just to see what they get on the asteroid chart, and they still have to roll their recall. Recall's okay, 85. They roll a 1 on the red die. That's probably not what they wanted. 3 supplies. Not terrible, but I mean, nothing's terrible. They really would have liked to have seen one of those fuel results come up. The asteroid goes away, and they earn a victory point for that. One victory point. What's next? Russians, do they have any remote mining? That one's headed out that way. Answer is no for the Russians, but the Asians are. So they've got these two crude vehicles. We'll do the one with the supply first. Target number is a 7 for ore. 10, 1 ore. 54, no recall. Second, 91 and a 3, so they get 2 ore. That's all of that. Base construction, trade and base construction. Okay, are there any trades that somebody wants to do right now? Well, the Americans, again, they want fuel, but if they wait, are they going to wait on that one? They need 2 more settlements. Let me figure this out. I'll be right back. Okay, so from the Freedom Base, they're going to spend 2 supplies, 2 ore, and a fuel to increase their settlement by 1. They're also going to expend this ore to remove that damage marker. Mars will expend an ore to remove a damage marker. Spirit Base is not doing anything right now. Independence Base not doing anything. Russians, let's just take care of these damage markers where they know they're doing it. So they've got some ores ready to go for that purpose. Now, let's see here. This is their asteroid base. Vostok, let's take care of that damage. So this is what they've got at Mars. They need 2 fuel here, and then they could build 2 settlements, which would increase their trade and enable them to buy a little more of that ore. Not a very pressing need. They don't. Same thing, they can buy ore at their base in the asteroid belt. It's not a bad idea. They only need 1 settlement here, though. They've got 2 fuel, though, and they are just about, they've got a reserved CV4 and they have a reserved CV3 coming in. So if they want to get those crude vehicles ready, they better hold on to that fuel, which is going to mean that they're either going to need to just launch supplies out here, and they may do that. And if they want to build the large spaceport, that costs 4 ore and 4 fuel. And they've already got ore. Of course, getting up on the settlements 3 is going to help them with the resource production as well. So there's multiple reasons why to add a few settlements. Well, I think they will go ahead and do it. So they'll spend 1. The other crude vehicles, they're going to spend 2 ore and 2 supplies. And that will get them to 3 settlements. And now they're going to be able to, next turn, buy more ore. And the ore is going to be fine because it's here where they need it, or is a big component in the cost of crewed vehicles. So that looks like all the Russian stuff. Mars base for the Asians. Of course, they're gonna get rid of the damage marker. Same with that one, and that one, and that one. So I've taken care of all that. Now, what are they doing here? Nothing. This base, they definitely need to upgrade the small supply to a large supply, and that costs 2 ore and 2 fuel. They need 1 more ore. And they'll have that next turn because they've got some crewed vehicles sitting right there that can return. So they'll be able to get their small spaceport going. Here's their settlement. Nobody else is building anything right now. So that's all the base construction. Most of the damage has been repaired. Did they really? Yeah. I guess the Americans just are the only ones who still have any damage left over from the miner strike. That looks like all of the stuff for 2090. So next turn, 2091 build phase. All right, here are the builds. Asians buying a flyby probe again to replace what just got lost. They're also going to do a telescope and an LV-1 to launch that telescope. They'll try the flyby in the LV-4. They're also spending a fuel and a supply from the asteroid belt to ready that crew vehicle 3. Next up, Russians buy all that stuff for 11 billion and expending a supply and a fuel from their asteroid belt to ready that crewed vehicle 4. And the Americans, 10 billion probe orbiter LV-2 and a flyby. They do not, they've got a crewed vehicle 3 at their base, but it was already ready, so they didn't have to do anything there. So that is, I think, our builds. Lots of robotic explorers and stuff. Transfer boxes. Mars. So here, this is a Russian, American, sometimes that color difference. American CV coming in to Mars arrives. This is the Russian CV3, 1 year out. That guy was already there. That's why that was the asteroid miner. These guys, American rover, Russian CV4, arrive at Jupiter. Russian rover. That looks like all the crewed or mandatory movement. Next up, Asians. Okay. So here at the beginning of or during the build phase, I guess, they would have, well, I think they'll both, just debating, what are we doing here? They want supplies, they want ore, they want fuel, they need everything. Everybody needs everything. Yeah. These crewed vehicle 4s are going to stay. This crewed vehicle 3, now that they have the large supply station, this crewed vehicle 3 can head out to Jupiter, and it's going to do that. It's going to be a 1-year trip. They're going to go try to get some fuel. And Any other, of course, they've got all this stuff. So let's see here. Let's take care of the telescope on an LV1. A 3%. That is a failure. Straight up. So the telescope and the LV1 are destroyed. And the agents get an engineering marker, which is a 2. Next up, the flyby and the probe launching on an LV4 from Earth. 95, no problem. They're sending that out to the asteroid belt, and that's going to be in the 1 box. Sorry, in the 1 box. Stacked on top of that Russian CV. Other Asian movement? No. All right, did I move that? They launched on an LV4. Or did I miss that movement? Okay, so distance 7, speed that 5-year travel, -3 is 2. Yeah, I felt like I had missed that. That should have moved down a box. What's next? Okay, that's the Asians. Russians. They've got some launches there with their stuff, but let's see what they've got going on the board. Crewed Vehicle 4. Here at Jupiter, they want fuel, because it doesn't really matter. Callisto and Ganymede are the same. They're just going to go to Callisto. So they go to the Callisto orbit and then out to the Callisto. Actually, I'll make it Ganymede because that's easier to reach. So that's that crewed vehicle. Next up, for them, another crewed vehicle 4. And they're, what do they need? They're going after well, they could also use some supplies. So the next crewed vehicle heading out to Jupiter, and that's a 1-year trip. I have no idea if these are good ideas. That's what we're going with. I'm thinking, use the crewed vehicles to gather supplies, use the money to be flexible on buying robotic explorers and launching them from Earth. Everybody, well, not the Asians yet, they're one step away, but these robotic explorers and launch vehicles can all be built at the small spaceports at the asteroid belt. But then you can't use money, you've got to use the resources. It's a headache for the logistics for me with 3 players. That looks like it for the Russians. Americans. So I've got a crewed vehicle 4 that's half full. They also need to go pick up 4 supply from the Spirit base. They might as well just go do that. So it's going to come over here to their Spirit base, and they will be able to load up. Oh, hang on. They also need to take an ore there. So instead, they're going to go out here, and they can mine ore. This crewed vehicle 3 is going to head out. It's going to load up 1 ore and head out to the Spirit base. So they've got ore. That's not a problem. So we'll make change and put the 1 ore on the crewed vehicle. Of course, it's just going to unload it now. It's going to, so that takes care of being able to that, and that's going to end up getting loaded on there to return back to the main base. So that's those two vehicles. This vehicle arrives at Mars and unloads these things. And now they'll be able to build a settlement this turn, which will put them at 5, which lets them buy 6. They'll buy the 6 fuel. Just kind of working through it. American rover, that needs to roll. And the destination for it is Io. And of course I forgot to launch all of the Russians stuff. 26. Well, 26, that's fine. And so it's going to arrive at Io. Okay, so I forgot to launch all that for the Russians and all of that for the Americans. Let's go to the Russians. Okay. Well, they'll send the just flyby 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so they'll send the flyby with a probe on an LV2. Send that towards the asteroid belt. 33. Recover the launch vehicle. Flyby and probe. Stick it there so we can see it, because both of those are eligible to. And the orbiter is heading out to Jupiter on LV4. Oh, 2%. Catastrophic failure. Orbiter's destroyed. Launch vehicle destroyed. They get an engineering marker. Just a 1. Okay, back to the Americans and their stuff. LV4, let's see here. What are we doing? They want to send that orbiter on the LV4, and they're sending that out to Sedna, where their mission is. So let's take care of that. 39, launch vehicle is recovered. Distance to Sedna. Distance is 15. Normal travel time is 9 minus 3. It's just 1 year behind that Russian rover. They're both targeting those things. And now LV2 flyby probe going along. Everybody's doing these flybys because, again, groupthink. 80. So launch vehicle 2 is recovered. Flyby and probe. So we're just going to end up with all these guys doing pretty much the same thing. Let's see. Decadal flyby race. Excuse me. I think that is all of the movement. And so we're good on the movement. Next up is exploration, starting with the Americans. They've got their flyby. And they have their orbiter here. They've got a rover here. So we've got, okay, exploration stuff to do again. 3 plus 2 is 5. 1, 6. No spectrometer bonus. 3, 6. Yeah, so they are 6 minus 1 for the distance. Four is a success, and a 9% is a failure. So they're going to get an engineering marker for the failure and an engineering marker. First one up, though, is for the exploration. That is a 2. Next is a 2. Okay. That's the Americans. Orbiter. I'm going to stick with, I think we were doing what, biology at Europa. I know, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11 minus 1. Okay, 10. Just straight up 10. Biology. Automatic success. Just rolling for malfunction. They roll a 50. Biology marker for Europa. A 1. Next up, rover at EO. Looks like 9, and then plus 2 more is 11, and then 2 more for the rover bonus is the 13. Automatic success. That's physics. 13 we said. Red die 8, so just the 1. 96 physics. Comes the physics marker. It's a 2. That looks like all of the Americans' explorations. Next up, Russians. They've got the flyby. That's 3. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, minus 1 for distance, 4. 5 is no success, 43 no malfunction. Next up for the Russians. There is none. Asians. Is that really? Okay. Asians. They're flyby 2. They've got a spectrometer. They're plus 1 printed from their printed, so they're a 3, 4, 5, 6, minus 1 for distance, 5. 1 is a success, 89. That's engineering. The result is 1. Next up, nothing here, nothing there. This orbiter now wants to target Triton because that's the Asians' mission. So 3 and 7 is 10, plus 1 for tech, minus 1 for distance, so back to 10. Automatic physics pull, just roll for malfunction. .43 no malfunction, physics marker. 2. No other explorations that I see. Remote mining. See here, nothing here. Of course, nobody can do it there. Nothing going on here. Yes. So the Americans, remote mining, or target to 7, 6 is 2 or, 6% is a recall. earning them a biology. Here's the 2 ore. Just the camera. Biology is a 5. Other American remote mining, the answer is no. We've got a crude vehicle there, crude vehicle there. I don't know what's saying there over here at Mars. Okay, Russian remote mining. They don't have anything over here. They've got a crude vehicle up here in Ganymede. They're going to go after fuel. Target number is a 5 on the fuel. So they automatically get 1, and a 1 means they get 3. But they did roll a 24, and that is below their recall rate, which is currently 25. But 3 fuel. I have put the 3 fuel in there. That is all of the Russians remote mining. Asians. They've got these 2 crude vehicles here. First one on the left, again, ore. Rolling for 7s. 4 is 2 ore, 72, no problem. This guy now is at, he's over, oh, I'm sorry, wrong person. He's at 4 of 6 resources. Next ship, same thing. Knocking you over. 3 is 2 ore, but a 10 is a recall. Which is going to earn a biology, and I'm going to trade those. Oh wait, that's a supply. Okay. Still, at the beginning of the next phase, they can dump that ore over here. And I'm going to do that, skipping ahead just a tiny bit. Biology marker for the recall. So 3. No other remote mining. That's the end of that. Trade and base construction. Well, trade. Let's see here. The answer is yes. There is going to be some trade. Just need to figure out. See here, the Russians. They had upgraded to 3 settlements, so they can trade 4 resources. So they can buy this and get 4. So they're going to buy 4 ore for 2 billion. And I'm just, that's 4 more ore here. The Americans are not. Freedom Base. They don't need the fuel right now, so they're going to wait. The trade happens before base construction, so, well, that's skipping ahead to the Americans. Do the Russians have any more trade? No. And technically the Americans go first. So let's do the Americans first. So places with, Freedom Base. they've got 2 settlements. If they wait for the 3rd, they'll be able to make more fuel. Spirit Base, they're going to, again, go for 1 more settlement to get more fuel, and trade happens before the base construction when we look at the sequence of play. So the Americans are not doing their base trades. Russians just took care of their 1. At Vostok base, they can buy ore. Don't see the value in doing that right now. Asians, they can sell ore here. They don't have it. And here, they can sell supplies. And they don't see the value in doing that right now. So that looks like all the trade. Base construction, back to the Americans. This is going to take them to 5 settlements in Mars. Here, I guess they'll go ahead. If they use up that supply, where are they going to get more? Well, they've got a bunch of supply. Or not a bunch, but 4. They've got supply. So they've got supply coming in and a little bit of ore. So it's safe for them to go ahead and spend 2 ore, 2 supply, 1 fuel. The other thing I can do, so the 2 settlements goes to 3. Stacks a little. So they go to 3 settlements. This base is expending an ore to repair that damage. They still don't have an ore there to do that, and at this point all the other damage has been fixed. So they've done builds. They're not going to other building. Russians. This is the asteroid belt. They're not building a settlement or anything else. They're not building anything right now. They need fuel to build settlements. And Asians, they are building. No, they're not, because I screwed that up. Okay, well, they can wait another turn. Excuse me. Yeah, they can build the settlement. Again, they're selling supplies. Yeah, they don't want to do anything. They're just going to reserve what they've got right now. So that is all of the trade and base construction. We're in hour minutes. We only got 2 turns done. They're a little bit slower right now. So, but we're going to stop this video here, and we will pick up on the next turn in 2092. Thanks for watching.